Jordan Chase stared at his computer screen, the harsh office lighting making his eyes burn. Another Tuesday at Millbrook Data Solutions. Another 8 hours of data entry and pretending to care about spreadsheet formatting. He rubbed his temples, trying to ward off the headache he could feel building. The same headache that had forced him to leave Brian's birthday drinks early last week. His coworkers had teased him about being a lightweight, but Jordan knew it wasn't the beer. These headaches had been coming more frequently lately. Time seemed to blur at the office, but then, didn't everyone zone out during endless spreadsheet work? His cubicle walls were decorated with the usual office worker debris, a calendar he'd stopped updating in March, a photo from last year's company picnic where someone had mistaken him for Sarah from accounting. They did have similar builds and the same haircut. Sticky notes with passwords he wasn't supposed to write down. Something felt off lately, though he couldn't put his finger on what. Last week, Sarah from accounting had mentioned a conversation he didn't quite remember. Yesterday, he'd surprised himself in the break room, discussing technical details with the new IT guy that he hadn't realized he knew. And then there were the dreams. Always the same setting. A dimly lit room, walls covered in papers and photos, red string connecting points on a map. He'd wake up with his heart racing, reaching for a notebook that wasn't there, trying to hold on to fragments that felt important, but slipped away like smoke. The True Crime Forum tab minimized in the corner of his screen beckoned. Just 5 minutes, he promised himself. He needed a break from expense reports. Besides, something about these cases felt important, though he couldn't explain why. The same way he couldn't explain how he'd known exactly where to find that accounting error last month, or why he sometimes caught himself checking the exits whenever he entered a room. The Alex Novak Files subreddit was buzzing with new activity. Someone had found archive footage from one of the missing journalists' last investigations. Jordan clicked the link, then frowned when a warning popped up about the video being age-restricted. "That's weird," he muttered, reaching for his coffee. His hand knocked against the cup, but somehow caught it before it spilled. A quick, fluid movement that surprised him. Like last month when he'd caught Dave's daughter before she could fall during the office family day. Everyone had called him a hero, but the moment itself felt strangely distant now, like watching someone else's memory. The video loaded, showing a woman with intense eyes and a confident smile. Alexandra Novak, rising star of investigative journalism, who vanished without a trace during the pandemic lockdowns of 2020. Something about her made Jordan's chest tight, though he couldn't say why. He'd been following her case obsessively for months, spending hours on forums, collecting data, building theories. He opened his case folder, organized with a precision that seemed beyond his usual habits. The main document was divided into sections: missing persons, financial trails, witness statements. The office carpet muffled approaching footsteps, but Jordan found himself tensing slightly before Dave's voice boomed from behind him. "Chase!" Jordan jumped, minimizing everything as his supervisor, Dave, appeared by his cubicle. Something about Dave always put him on edge, though the man had never been anything but friendly. "Those expense reports done yet?" "Almost," Jordan replied, the lie flowing smoothly. His voice shifted subtly, warmer, more engaging. "Just cross-checking the third quarter numbers. You know how Thompson gets about decimal points?" Dave laughed, exactly as Jordan somehow knew he would. "Don't remind me. Last month's audit was a nightmare." "Which you handled perfectly," Jordan added. The words came automatically, like a script he'd rehearsed. "That new system you implemented really streamlined things." Dave beamed, already walking away. "Keep up the good work, Chase." Jordan let out a breath, then noticed his hands were shaking slightly. These moments of perfect social interaction always left him feeling drained, though he couldn't explain why. He glanced at his watch. 3:42 p.m. Something about that number tickled his memory, but before he could grab hold of the thought, his phone buzzed. An email notification from an account he didn't recognize. archival.prime@encrypted.com. The subject line read, "RE, your recent interest." Jordan hesitated. He hadn't contacted anyone about the Novak case. Had he? The email contained only a link to an old news article and 3 words: "Look deeper, Jay." His cursor hovered over the link. Part of him wanted to delete the email and forget about it. That would be the sensible thing to do, the safe thing. But another part of him, A part that felt older, more certain, was already moving to click. The article loaded. Rising digital journalist Alexandra Novak investigates dark web connection to missing children cases. Jordan's head throbbed. The fluorescent lights seemed too bright, the office too quiet. He had the strange sensation of someone standing just behind him, watching over his shoulder, even though he knew his cubicle backed against a wall. "You okay there, Chase?" Sarah from accounting called from across the aisle. "You look a little pale." "Fine," he answered automatically, but his voice sounded distant to his own ears. "Just a headache." Sarah lingered, concern evident on her face. "You've been getting those a lot lately. Maybe you should see someone?" "Maybe," Jordan agreed, though he knew he wouldn't. Doctors meant questions, and lately he had too many answers he couldn't explain, like the insights he'd shared during Sarah's divorce, or why his mandatory health physical paperwork was filed with no memory of the appointment. His screen flickered, and for a moment he thought he saw another face reflected in the dark monitor. Not his own, but a woman's face with intense eyes and a confident smile. Jordan blinked, and it was gone. Jordan pushed back from his desk, suddenly needing air. The office felt too small, too confined. He grabbed his jacket, mumbling something about lunch to Dave as he hurried past. His hand brushed the cubicle wall, and for a split second, a strange image flashed through his mind. A small camera, perfectly positioned to capture Dave's office door. The thought vanished as quickly as it had come. Outside, the October wind cut through his clothes. He walked without direction, his mind racing. The Novak case had been consuming more and more of his thoughts lately. At first, it had just been curiosity, another true crime mystery to follow. But now, his phone buzzed again. 3 new emails arriving simultaneously. Red Hawk. Stop digging. Now. They've noticed the pattern in your searches. Archivist. Prime. Check the blockchain transactions from March 42nd, 20. Follow the shell companies. Blue Jay. Remember the coffee shop. You know which one. The window seat. "I didn't subscribe to anything," Jordan muttered, staring at his phone. "I didn't—" A sudden image hit him like a physical blow. A coffee shop window, steam fogging the glass. Alexandra Novak's face in profile as she met with someone. The image felt real, vivid. The smell of espresso, the screaming steam wand, the rough patch on a wooden chair where someone had carved initials. Jordan stumbled, catching himself against a wall. His head was pounding now, the world tilting strangely. He looked up, getting his bearings, and froze. Across the street stood Groundwork Coffee, the shop from his vision. The same worn brick facade, the same green awning, the same window seat where Alexandra had— "No," Jordan whispered. "That's not— I've never—" But his feet were already moving, carrying him toward the cafe. Inside, the barista looked up with a smile of recognition that made Jordan's stomach lurch. "Hey, stranger. Haven't seen you since—" The barista's smile faltered. "Wait, sorry, I thought you were someone else." Jordan gripped the counter, steadying himself. "Someone else?" "Yeah, you look just like—" The barista shook her head. "Never mind. What can I get you?" "I've never been here before," Jordan said, but even as the words left his mouth, certainty flooded through him. The bathroom down the hall to the right, the loose floorboard by the window seat, the electrical outlet that didn't work at the corner table. He knew the barista's name was Maya, that she worked Tuesday afternoons, that she had a cat named Pixel, and was taking night classes in computer science. The knowledge settled in his mind like it had always been there, waiting to be remembered. Maya making someone's usual drink, double espresso, splash of oat milk. The music volume dropping during important conversations. A warning about a suspicious man asking questions. Maya's careful positioning at the counter. Her perfectly timed coffee spills interrupting unwanted approaches to the window table. The corner table, where Alexandra Novak had sat, typing frantically on her laptop, glancing over her shoulder every few minutes. Where she'd met with sources about missing children and cryptocurrency trails. Where she'd realized she was being watched. The memory was crystal clear now. Alexandra sitting there 3 months before she disappeared, meeting with a trembling woman who worked at one of the educational facilities. The woman had pushed a USB drive across the table, her hands shaking so badly she'd knocked over her cup. Maya had cleaned it up without being asked, deliberately taking her time, making sure no one could approach the table during the handoff. Jordan walked to the table as if in a trance. There was a scratch in the wood surface, 3 parallel lines. Without thinking, he ran his finger along them, remembering making them with a key, a signal, a warning. He yanked his hand back. Not his memory. It couldn't be his memory. But he could feel the key in his hand, remember the precise angle needed to make the marks look like ordinary wear. Could hear Alexandra's voice. If anything happens to me, the dead man switch. His phone buzzed again. One new email, Archivist Prime. You're remembering? We knew you would. The coffee shop was our last safe meeting point, before we had to become you. Attached was a video file. The thumbnail showed Alexandra Novak, sitting at this very table, looking directly into the camera. The timestamp read 3:42. Behind her, through the window, Jordan could see Maya wiping down tables, keeping watch in her own subtle way. Had she known? Had she been part of it? Jordan's hands shook as he pressed play. The cafe seemed to fade around him, the present moment blurring with memory, or whatever these fragments were that kept surfacing in his mind. If you're watching this, Alexandra's voice was tight with tension, then you've started to remember, and they've probably already noticed. Be careful. Trust the system. They're trying to protect. The video cut off. Jordan stared at the blank screen, his reflection overlaying where Alexandra's face had been. For a moment, they seemed to merge, features blending, impossible and familiar all at once. The headache intensified, and with it came a voice, not his own, but somehow inside his head. We need to move. Now. They're coming. Jordan looked up. Through the cafe window, he saw 3 men in dark suits crossing the street, moving with purpose. One touched his earpiece, speaking. Another scanned the storefronts, his hand resting too casually near his jacket, toward the coffee shop, toward him. Sir, are you all right? Maya's concerned voice seemed to come from far away. Back exit, through the kitchen. Move now. The voice was clearer now, commanding, protective. Without conscious thought, Jordan found himself smiling reassuringly at Maya, a perfect, disarming smile that felt practiced. Actually, could I use your bathroom? His voice carried just the right mix of embarrassment and urgency. Bad coffee from the office. Of course. Through the back, past the kitchen on the right. Thanks. The words came automatically, even as part of him wondered how he knew. He moved with deliberate casualness until he was out of sight of the front windows. Then his body shifted, posture changing, movements becoming fluid and precise. The bathroom door opened and closed loudly, but Jordan was already slipping through the kitchen service entrance. We have a safe house. A precise, analytical voice emerged clearly in his mind. 2 blocks east, small office building, 2nd floor. Why should I trust you? Jordan thought back, even as his feet followed the directions. For all I know, I'm having some kind of breakdown. You know we're real, the voice replied patiently. Those weren't just dreams. And I'm Rachel, by the way. Strategic planning. Why did we wait so long? Jordan found himself asking as they moved through the alley, surprising himself by accepting this impossible conversation. If we had all this evidence. Because we needed to be certain, Rachel replied. These people own judges, reporters, politicians. One mistake, one loose thread. And they bury everything, another voice, warmer, smoother, added. I'm Jay, by the way. I handle the social aspects. A memory surfaced, Alexandra methodically tracking financial records, following money through shell companies, building an airtight case. They're careful, Alexandra's voice echoed in his mind. But they made a mistake last week, moved assets to avoid an audit. Plus, a third voice, Marcus the protective one, added, they're moving another group of children soon. We're out of time. They emerged onto a quiet street lined with small businesses, insurance offices, accounting firms, real estate agencies. The Harrison building was barely noticeable among them, just another 2-story professional space with a small parking lot. Its brick facade was weathered but well-maintained, the kind of building that had probably housed the same local businesses for decades. The only remarkable thing about it was how unremarkable it was. Perfect cover, Jay commented. Nobody notices another small accounting firm, especially one that's been carefully established for 2 years, Rachel added. complete with clients, paperwork, and a perfectly ordinary history. I chose this building specifically because of the service corridor connecting the two wings, a quirk of the original construction that the renovation plans missed. Jordan approached the building's side entrance, trying to look like any other professional returning from lunch. His hand found a key card in his pocket, one he didn't remember having, but somehow knew would work. Second floor, suite 204, Rachel directed. Anderson Financial Services. Anderson? Jordan whispered as they climbed the stairs. Another identity? One of many careful preparations, Rachel confirmed. But we need to hurry. They'll check nearby buildings soon. The second floor hallway was quiet, just the hum of air conditioning and distant office sounds. Suite 204 looked completely ordinary. Frosted glass door, professional signage, nothing to suggest it was anything but another small financial firm. Inside, the office was sparse but functional. A desk, filing cabinets, a high-end laptop. Through the window, Jordan could see the coffee shop 2 blocks away. Perfect sightlines. As Rachel's memories surfaced, he understood the strategic value of the location. Close enough to monitor their old meeting spot, far enough to have warning if anyone came looking. Jordan froze. The room. It was the room from his dreams, exactly as he'd seen it night after night. The walls covered in papers and photos, red string connecting points on maps. The same layout, the same peculiar angle of the desk, positioned to give clear views of both the door and the window, while keeping the occupants back protected. 3 cameras watching the street, Marcus noted through their shared awareness. 1 covering the side entrance, 2 monitoring approaches from main roads, all feeding to secure servers. Jordan moved to the desk, instinctive movements he couldn't explain, guiding him to a hidden panel underneath. Inside was a small safe, combination flowing through his mind and Rachel's precise patterns. The contents told a story of meticulous planning, multiple passports, each with different names, but his photo, USB drives marked with coded labels, a laptop that had never been connected to any network. Deadman switch protocols, Rachel explained as their shared fingers traced the equipment. If we miss 3 scheduled check-ins, everything releases automatically. Can't be stopped, can't be traced. Smart, Jay approved. They can't torture information out of someone who doesn't have the keys. Through the window, Jordan saw 2 men in suits emerging from the coffee shop. One spoke into his phone, then pointed toward their block. "Company coming," Marcus warned. "Rachel!" Rachel's fingers flew across the laptop keyboard, entering complex sequences of commands. "Almost done. Final failsafes engaging. Even if they stop us now, everything releases in 20 minutes. 38 media outlets," Jay added, plus law enforcement in 12 countries. Too many points of contact for them to contain. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. "They're here," Marcus's voice was steady. "Ready?" Jordan felt the system align, each part settling into their role. Rachel's strategic mind, Jay's social insights, Marcus's protective instincts, all flowing together with his own determination. "Ready?" he whispered, and for the first time, it felt like truly his voice. All of them, united. The door burst open. Collins entered first, flanked by 2 guards in suits. Not military, Jordan realized, just corporate muscle trying to look official. The way they moved spoke of private security training, efficient but predictable. Marcus's tactical awareness cataloged their weak points automatically. "Federal agents! Hands where we can see them!" "Remember," Marcus whispered in their mind, "they're not real federal agents. Notice how their suits don't quite fit right? Private sector doesn't pay for tailoring like the Bureau does." Jay stepped forward, their voice carrying perfectly controlled confusion and outrage. "What is the meaning of this? I'm a financial consultant. You can't just—" "Cut the act, Novak," Collins interrupted. "Or whatever identity you're playing today." Jordan felt a sudden shift inside, like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking together. Rachel's strategic analysis, Jay's social awareness, Marcus's protective instincts, all of them distinct yet unified, each bringing their own memories of Collins. He was at the Wyoming facility. Rachel's memories surfaced, watching through one-way glass as they tested the children. Always with that same smile, Jay added, their shared throat tightening, right before he'd tell parents their children needed special attention. "Standard manipulation tactics," Marcus noted. He's trying to destabilize us, make us doubt ourselves. Collins studied Jordan's face, almost admiring. The Jordan Chase identity is practically flawless. 3 years of backstopped records, genuine coworkers who remember you, even a social media presence that feels authentic. But then, the Institute taught you well, didn't they? Cameron Collins, Rachel's memory supplied. Operations Blackwood Institute's Special Projects Division, oversees their recruitment program. We know what you did, Collins continued. How you fragmented yourself. Clever, hiding the evidence in plain sight, scattered across multiple personalities, each one holding different pieces of the puzzle, none knowing the full picture until it was too late for us to stop it. He almost sounded admiring. Our own techniques used against us. Poetic, really. Jordan felt the system's collective anger rise. Years of memories surfaced, children disappearing into facilities, experiments in forced dissociation, attempts to weaponize trauma. Alexandra had discovered their program by accident, following money trails that led to something far darker than expected. The Institute called them educational facilities, remote compounds disguised as private boarding schools or behavioral treatment centers, places where wealthy parents sent troubled children, never questioning why communication was so restricted, why visits were never allowed, the perfect cover for their real purpose, creating programmable assets through systematic trauma and controlled dissociation. Remember the Wyoming facility? Rachel's voice was tight with anger. How they classified the children by potential. The color-coded files rating their susceptibility to programming. The Swiss boarding school, Jay added. All those diplomatic kids. Perfect covers. Built-in international access. And the summer camps in Montana, Marcus's memory surfaced. Training grounds for their successful subjects. You're right, they said, Alexandra's determination flowing through Jordan's voice. It is over, but not the way you think. Collins smiled thinly. You really believe you can stop us? We own the police, the media, the courts. You own nothing, Rachel spoke through them now, precise and cold. I've spent years documenting everything, every transaction, every shell company, every connection. The children you took, the families you destroyed, the identities you erased, all of it. It's all releasing now to everyone. Interpol, FBI, journalists we trust, encryption keys are already in the wild. Colin's smile faltered. You're bluffing. Am I? Jay's social insight picked up the fear beneath Colin's confidence. The first batch just dropped. Check your phone. Major outlets are already picking up the Wyoming facility story. And that's just the beginning. We have hours of stage releases ready to go. Your corporate sponsors are about to have a very bad day. Collins grabbed his phone, face paling as he scrolled. Through their shared awareness, they could read his expression, the moment he realized the scope of what they'd done and what was still to come. Stop the upload now. Can't, Marcus replied, their shared voice steady. Dead man's switch. You can't torture information out of a system that's already released it. Collins nodded to his guards. One moved to block the door while the other reached for Jordan. Marcus reacted instantly, movements precise and economical. As the guard lunged, Marcus guided their body into the man's space, one hand striking the guard's wrist while the other caught his weapon. A quick twist. The gun came free as the guard's shoulder gave a wet pop. The guard's cry of pain was cut short as Marcus drove an elbow into his solar plexus, sending him stumbling into his partner. The gun felt familiar in their hands, though Jordan had never held one before. Standard Institute security loadout, Marcus noted clinically. 15-round magazine, no modifications, sloppy. The service door, Rachel directed. Now, they backed toward the hidden door, Marcus keeping the weapon trained on Collins and the remaining guard. Jay's voice carried across the room, steady and cold. Your employer's about to have bigger problems than us. Those files include proof of corporate funds being used for human trafficking. Wonder how the shareholders will react to that? The uninjured guard helped his partner up, both men looking to Collins for direction. Even they could see which way the wind was blowing. Collins snarled, "Get them!" But that moment of hesitation was all they needed. Marcus guided their hand to the concealed door latch as Rachel's memory provided the access code. They slipped through just as Collins lunged forward, his desperate grab missing them by inches. The gun would ensure no one followed too closely. The service corridor connected the building's two wings, a requirement of the fire code that Rachel had noted when choosing this location. The narrow passage had been part of the original building's design, hidden behind a renovation that never quite finished. Rachel had discovered it in the original blueprints, making it perfect for their needs. Most people don't even know it exists, Rachel noted as they moved through the dim space. The building inspector who signed off on covering it up retired to Florida 2 years ago. Very convenient. Behind them, they could hear Colin shouting into his phone, "Lock down everything! Call our people at the networks." His voice cut off as another call interrupted him. Even through the walls, they could hear his curse of frustration. First wave of stories just hit, Rachel confirmed, checking their phone. Washington Post, Guardian, Le Monde. Too many outlets to suppress. They emerged into the crisp October air, Jordan's body, their body, moving with practiced ease. Alexandra's naturally androgynous features had made the transformation simple. A different haircut, different clothes, subtle changes in posture and movement. While they searched for a missing woman, she had become someone new entirely, hiding in plain sight behind carefully chosen masculine presentations. "We did it," Rachel whispered as they walked calmly away from the building, blending into the crowd of office workers on their lunch breaks. "Everything Alexandra discovered, everything we protected, everything we became Jordan to preserve," Jay added. "Speaking of which," Marcus said, "what now?" Jordan felt the system's collective consciousness considering the question. They were out in the open now, their purpose revealed, but they were also stronger together, each part essential, including the identity they had created. "Now," Jordan said, feeling Alexandra's determination and the system's unity, "we finish what we started. There are more facilities, more children to save." "Together?" the system asked. "Together," Jordan confirmed. "All of us." They walked into the growing chaos of the city, their shared purpose clear. They were no longer just Alexandra Novak, crusading journalist. No longer just Jordan Chase, quiet office worker. They were something new, something powerful. They were a system united, and they had work to do. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "Ready," Rachel confirmed. "Ready?" Jay agreed. "Ready," Jordan said for all of them. And somewhere in their shared consciousness, Alexandra smiled. Her investigation hadn't ended when she disappeared. It had evolved, just like they had.
Well, that was System Protocol. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed writing it. If you've made it this far, you obviously have some thoughts about the story. Please comment what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like. I'll take it all. If you liked it, please hit like and share it with other people you think might enjoy it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you, and we'll catch you here next time.